Martin, thanks for popping by.
Well, it's a total pleasure.
So let's begin immediately with your new album that was released in 2021 called Home Recordings. Can you tell me about this album?
I can indeed. It seems so funny to think of that as being a new album, because actually it came about because of lockdown. I had in my timetable, I had record a live record in front of an audience in October of 2020, and it became apparent really rapidly in the spring of 2020 that wasn't going to happen. And so I talked to the record company and I said, I'd really like to make a record. And I've been sitting at home now for several months and just playing all the time, having a wonderful time. And I've got all this material, and I could make a record at home recordings. And they went, "Oh, good title." And I decided foolishly that I would teach myself to use one of the online recording methods. And I said to my wife, Kit, who's a production manager, I said, "Kit, I'm going to teach myself to use Pro Tools, and I'm going to make this record at home." And she looked at me and she laughed and she said, "You couldn't order a pair of socks online without assistance from me. So no, you're not going to learn to use Pro Tools. It will take you forever and you will break the computer." So I didn't. I got my friends, Andy Bell and Tom Wright, to come in and basically set up a console in the next room here. And I sat in this room and we made the record in 4 days, in basically 4 short sessions, So, and I love it. I love that record. It's very, very intimate, I think.
Yeah. It's been described by Guitarist magazine as like a good old-fashioned home concert, which I guess is exactly what you're going for. It's that way. So clearly it worked out, and I would tell everyone to go and listen to that if you haven't already, because I feel like during the lockdown it was awful, but you did manage to get all of these intimate things out of it, and so to have that really intimate album is quite unusual. Would you say it's different to all your other albums in that sense?
Well, yeah, it is. It is. I mean, it is. It has such sharp focus, and it's a long time since I've done a record. Well, which is, it's that quick, and it's as a result of sitting around, literally in this room or else on the back deck, and just playing things for the joy of playing, and then looking at what you've got and saying, "Oh, this is a record." And sometimes it takes months to make records, and I'm working on the next one now, and it's already been a long time since July of 2020, which is when I recorded Home Recordings. So
but it wasn't just that album that you released in 2021. There was also your Live Before Lockdown Bootleg 19. What was this album?
Well, that was an interesting one, because when I realized I wouldn't be able to make a live recording, I remembered, with the help of Tom Wright, who is my engineer and road engineer, and we do a lot of studio work together. I remembered that we'd recorded the very last gig on the promotional tour for the previous record, and it had been in Sheffield with a fabulous audience, and I think it was like gig number 28 on the promo tour. So I was completely on fire in terms of being able to perform the material, and the audience were completely up for it. And it was the last gig of the year. It was in December, and I listened to it. And it was also filmed, actually. So I listened to it and said, "Whoa, wait a minute. I have a live album here." But by this time, we'd already decided that Home Recordings was going to be a commercial release on, if you like, on all platforms, Whereas this live album, Bootleg, that's only available on Bandcamp, and Bandcamp's a really great platform, because for those of you who are not familiar with, the various ways that you can purchase music, Bandcamp is the one that actually pays the artists properly.
Hmm.
So I would highly recommend, if you're interested in hearing me play properly live in front of an audience, that live before lockdown is good fun. It's a really well
Definitely.
recorded gig.
Yeah. Is there quite a nice like contrast between the live before lockdown and the home recordings? Because obviously you've got that feeling of the gig and then that feeling of being at home.
Yeah, and there's a lot of difference material wise too, because I'd had those, the in a sense, the live before lockdown was clearing the decks for the next record. It had
Yeah.
it had all this material that I'd recorded and done, a few new things, but then the home recordings is a lot of new things, a lot of
Mm.
really, I mean, new ideas, but new techniques, me working on things at home. It's a picture of me at work in a way. And
Yeah.
the other is a picture of me on tour doing the thing that I do in front of people. So I like that.
And I suppose the live before lockdown came out at a perfect time because really no one could go to gigs or anything. And so kind of managed to emulate that feeling at a time when we couldn't. And I suppose that in that way, it's better that it came out during that sort of time than maybe if you'd done it before when people could still go to the gigs. Makes it more
I think
special, I
so.
suppose.
I think so. And I do think both of those recordings have been reviewed as uh, as things which really helped people in
Yeah.
terms of everybody was stuck at home. When lockdown first started, I was not unhappy whatsoever to be at home. If you recall, the weather was really rather nice, and
Yeah.
I didn't. There were no planes in the air, and there were no clouds in the sky, and I had a great time. But that obviously over the last couple of years has worn very,
Hmm.
very thin, and
Yeah.
now
Marathon.
I just I live for the next gig really.
Exactly. And I mean, this isn't a gig, but this is a new thing that you're working on that does gigs. That's my little link there. And this is the Magpie Arc, which is like it's a bit of a folk super group you've got going on. Can you tell us who the Magpie Arc is and what you're doing?
I can tell you who the Magpie Arc is. It's an interesting story because this band was put together at the end of 2019, and they got in touch with me. It's Nancy Kerr and Tom Wright and Alex Hunter, and initially Adam Holmes was in the band, and they got in touch with me and they said, "We want you to come and join this band, but we want you to play electric guitar. We want you to be the lead guitarist in the band." And I said, "Hell yeah, yeah, I will. I absolutely will." And so we got together and started to rehearse. There were gigs in the book. We had an album, sort of a third finished, and then it was all over because it was
Oh,
lockdown. And it's Adam Holmes retired during lockdown and was replaced by Findlay Napier, who is just delightful and really great. And so the new lineup has been rehearsing, and we actually have our first gig in June, which is insane because
yeah,
it's almost 3 years that since we mooted this thing, and we're going
yeah.
to do a gig. So in fact, there
Where
are
is the
several
gig?
gigs. The first gig's in Doncaster, which is very near here. So, and then there's a bunch of festivals, including Cambridge Festival. So I'm sure if they're not on my website already, they shortly will be.
Brilliant. And if you were to describe the sound that you do briefly, how would you describe it?
Eclectic, because I mean we we have four writers. We also have a traditional music to call on. We have English traditional music. We have country music. We have I mean, our bass player Alex Hunter is a dictionary of excellent bass lines. So you never know what he's going to come up with. You'll be playing a traditional tune and suddenly go, wait a minute, that's a familiar bass line. Where does that come from? He'll just be popping in something which is, he's almost like a human sampler at times, you know.
Wow.
So it goes from being very gentle and sort of a bit transcendental to being really, if you will excuse the expression, balls out rock and roll. You know, it's good.
Sounds amazing. And I'm hoping to see you at Manchester Folk Festival because you're there this year, aren't you?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, that's where I'm hoping to be.
Good.
Brilliant. So another thing that, in case anyone doesn't know, Martin did a guitar workshop with Homestage in November 2021. It was a huge success. Honestly, absolutely loved it. And in case anyone's missed it, we do have footage from the subsequent concert for you to check out if you want to see that. But Martin, is that something that you're doing quite a lot, these workshops?
Well, it has been, and during lockdown, it was actually a real lifesaver in a sense because I did 3 Zoom workshops, and they were very successul. At the moment, I've been busy working on this new Patreon page, and I sort of let the workshops sit for a while. There will
Mhm.
be a workshop announcement shortly, I'm sure, but I'm in a funny position at the moment because I have a new solo record to make. I have the Magpie Arc record to finish, and I have another recording project which is just in its early stages, which I can't really talk about. So I've got these 3 massive releases to think about. I mean, massive for me, you know, it's not Adele or anything, but it's a big deal as far as I'm concerned. And so I've sort of let the workshops slide at the moment, but I have to fix that because people really want to do them. So
Yeah, I was
yeah,
going to say that if you're a guitarist or even a non-guitarist, I'm a non-guitarist and I thoroughly enjoyed it and felt that I learned something. I would just honestly recommend it so much. But you just mentioned your new Patreon page. Can
yes,
we talk a bit more about that? That's
we
launched on today, the day of the recording, right?
it
What
is.
is that?
Well, Patreon is it's a thing that friends of mine have been doing actually for quite a time now. Martin Taylor, for instance, has a very successful Patreon page. It, it is an opportunity for me to stay at home and work on teaching transcriptions, um, examining my, I know it's a funny thing to say, but examining my archive. So the first thing we did on the Patreon page is I took these 2 photographs that I have from when I was 15, which is a long time ago. And the pictures, they were kind of like promo pictures. Not that I had all that much to promote, but it was me outstanding in my field, as it were, at the back of my house in Scunthorpe, with a guitar over my shoulder and a banjo resting on my right boot. Um, and I mean, looking at it, it just fills me with warmth because I know exactly what that person was aiming for, and they were aiming for today, really. And so what we did is we went out and I took a guitar which I inherited from my late father-in-law, Roy Bailey, which is exactly the same guitar I was holding, exactly the same model of guitar that I was holding in this picture from when I was 15. And I have a lovely vintage Gibson banjo, which is very storied. And so we recreated the photograph, and then I talk about the history of the instruments, of what was happening for me at those points, and play a little bit on both instruments. So we'll be doing things like that. Well, it's an opportunity for me to share kind of really intimate details of what it's like to be me. I suppose I don't think that's overstating the case. So I'll be
Yeah.
talking about the process of arranging and writing and traveling, and the nature I see on my walks, and anything you can think of which seems to be relevant to my relationship to my audience and the world, really. It's
Yeah, really
exciting.
personal thing. Lovely. And so if anyone wants access to that, follow the link that we've got on the screen here. And also you can check in the descriptions below for that. Now, we are running out of time, so there's one more thing I want to cover, and that is a tour you've got coming up in May with Andy Cutting.
Oh, yes.
What's this tour?
Well, Andy Cutting, for those of you who are not familiar with him, he plays diatonic accordion and melodeon, and he is one of the best musicians that I've ever encountered. And I got together with him a long time ago now, I guess, getting on for 17 years ago, something like that, because my agent then said, okay, we've got this idea that older musicians, such as yourself, I said, should pick a young musician, and you should go out on the road and you should work with this young musician. And I said to Kit, my wife, I'd love to do this, but who should I work with? And she said, without skipping a beat, she said, Andy Cutting. Andy's amazing. So Andy came over to the house, and we sat down, and I played him a tune on the guitar, and he immediately joined in on the accordion. And honestly, within the first three verses, we both of us just went, oh, this is going to work. This is great. So we stopped playing and had a cup of coffee and talked. And since then, he's worked on a number of my records, and we went to Denmark together and worked on somebody else's record, and all kinds of great things. And of course, Andy he's massively in demand because he's in the group Leverett, but he also just played the Royal Albert Hall as a member of the Who for a children's cancer charity, which is fantastic. So yeah.
And are you going all over with that tour? Is it all over the UK or just in a particular area?
Quite a bit of the country, so it's good.
I just want to sneak one thing in here. Maybe I'm being a bit cheeky, but you mentioned the solo record. Do you have any ideas of when that's going to come out? Are there any details you can share about that?
Well, I know when it's going to come out. It's going to come out in March of 2023. And I've got the core unit, if you like, is me and Andy Cutting and a wonderful cello player called Liz Hanks, who lives here in Sheffield. Liz is like Andy, there's Andy at the Royal Albert Hall playing with the Who, and turned on the TV and there's Liz Hanks playing with Liam Gallagher, and she's worked on loads of Richard Hawley's records, but she is just a fabulous musician, and so that's going to be my little three-piece orchestra for this record. But then it'll be broad. It won't just be that. There will be some quite nasty electric stuff on there too. So
this sounds amazing. I can't believe we have to wait a whole year. That's not fair. But still, the anticipation. Yeah. Amazing. Well, thank you very much for joining us today, Martin. It's been great to catch up, and I'll see you on the scene.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Maddy. You take care. Bye.
Tuesday Folk People is going on tour. We're heading to Manchester, Leamington Spa and London on the 23rd, 24th and 25th of June. We're bringing to you 5 of our previous Tuesday Folk People artists to perform live. Tickets are on sale now, so head on over to our website at home-stage.co.uk to get yours.